That bar of Lux sitting on your bathroom shelf right now, you've picked it up thousands of times, unwrapped it, used it, thrown away the wrapper without a second thought. But I'm willing to bet you've never once stopped to think about where it actually came from, because the story behind that one simple bar is genuinely wild. It starts not in a clean laboratory, not in some sterile mixing room. It starts with raw animal fat, the kind that comes straight out of a meat processing plant. And what happens between that moment and the perfectly shaped, perfectly scented bar landing in your hand involves chemistry, massive industrial machines, and a level of precision that most people would never associate with something as ordinary as soap. So today, we're going inside the factory, and we're following every single step, because once you know how this is made, you will never look at a soap bar the same way again. The whole thing begins with fat, beef tallow and pork lard, arriving at the factory in large quantities directly from meat processing facilities. Now, before anyone gets uncomfortable, this fat cannot go anywhere near production in its raw state. Raw animal fat is dirty. It carries blood, tissue remnants, moisture, and all kinds of impurities that would completely ruin the final product. So the very first thing that happens is rendering. The fat gets loaded into large industrial heating vessels and slowly melted down into liquid form. As it liquefies, the impurities separate out. Some sink to the bottom, some float up to the surface, and they get removed. What's left behind is tallow. Clean, pale yellow, odorless, and completely purified. That's the base. But tallow alone doesn't make a great bar of soap, which is why the factory also works with plant-based oils alongside it. Coconut oil comes in for lather. It's what creates that rich, foamy, luxurious feel when you work the soap between your hands. Palm oil comes in for structure. It's what keeps the bar firm and solid so it doesn't turn into a soft, crumbling mess after 3 showers. And tallow handles the skin feel, that smooth, creamy sensation that Lux has been known for since the brand launched over 100 years ago. The specific blend of these 3 ingredients isn't random. It's a formula that's been tested and refined over decades, and it's what separates a Lux bar from every generic soap on the market. Once the fats are purified and blended together in exactly the right proportions, the actual soap making begins. The fat mixture gets pumped into massive reaction tanks called saponification vessels, and this is where chemistry takes over completely. Sodium hydroxide, lye, gets introduced into the fat, and the moment those two things meet, a reaction called saponification starts. The lye attacks the fatty acid molecules, breaks them apart at a molecular level, and reorganizes everything into 2 completely new substances, soap molecules and glycerin. It generates heat, it takes time, and it has to be watched carefully the entire way through. The ratio of fat to lye is everything here. Tip it even slightly in the wrong direction, and you ruin the whole batch. When the reaction finishes and the balance is right, what you have is a thick, paste-like soap base, chemically complete, but still a long way from anything you'd want to pick up in the shower. That crude soap base is carrying things it doesn't need anymore: residual lye, various impurities, and the glycerin that formed during saponification. The glycerin gets pulled out carefully because it's actually worth good money. Cosmetic companies, pharmaceutical manufacturers, skincare brands all want it, so the factory separates it and sells it rather than throwing it away. The separation happens using salt water. Brine gets introduced into the soap base and causes a natural separation. The soap rises to the top, the glycerin and waste materials drop into the brine layer below. The 2 get split apart, and this washing process repeats until the soap base is completely clean. What remains at this point is what the industry calls meat soap: thick, hot, uniform, and pure. But it's still carrying too much water to become a bar, so it moves into drying systems, where moisture gets drawn out carefully until the soap hits its target percentage. Go too far and the bar becomes brittle. Don't go far enough and the bar goes soft and dissolves too fast in the shower. The drying stage is precise, and what comes out at the end doesn't look like soap at all. It's small, pale, waxy pellets, almost like tiny chips. These are called soap noodles, and this is where the process completely changes direction. Up until now, everything has been about chemistry and purification. From this point forward, it's about identity, turning a generic soap base into something that is specifically, recognizably Lux. The noodles go into mixing vessels, and the additions begin. Fragrance is the first and most important one. That scent you recognize the second you unwrap a new bar, that gets blended in at carefully measured quantities that have been worked out to achieve exactly the right intensity. Not so strong it's overwhelming, not so faint you can't smell it. Skin conditioning agents go in next. Moisturizers, emollients, the ingredients that justify calling this a beauty soap rather than just a cleaning bar. Colorants follow, dialed in to achieve the specific cream and white tones the brand is known for. Preservatives go in last to protect shelf life during storage and transit. Every single one of these additions is weighed precisely, added in a defined sequence, and the mixing runs until every part of the batch is identical. The blended soap then goes through milling. Heavy rollers, granite or steel, compress and work the soap repeatedly, breaking down any remaining inconsistencies and creating a texture that's completely smooth and uniform throughout. This step matters more than most people realize. Milled soap is denser, lasts longer, and feels noticeably better against skin than soap that hasn't been milled. After milling, the mass feeds into a machine called a plotter. Think of it as an industrial extruder, similar in principle to a meat grinder. The soap gets forced through a die under pressure and comes out the other side as a long, continuous log of uniform diameter moving steadily along a conveyor. An automatic cutting blade slices that log into individual pieces of exactly the right weight and size. These pieces are called billets, and they're the last raw form the soap takes before it becomes a finished bar. Billets go into stamping presses. A two-part metal mold closes around each one under significant pressure, compressing the soap and shaping it into the final bar form in one single operation. The Lux name gets pressed in, the brand emblem gets pressed in. Every surface detail you see on a finished bar gets applied right here. What comes out of the press is complete: correct shape, clean edges, smooth surfaces, brand identity locked in. Inspection mends continuously. Every bar gets checked for weight, shape, surface quality, color, and scent before it moves an inch closer to packaging. Anything that doesn't pass gets pulled immediately and recycled back into the process earlier in the line. Nothing substandard gets wrapped. The packaging machines then take each approved bar, wrap it automatically in Lux's printed packaging, heat seal it closed, and move it into cartons that get palletized by robotic systems and transferred to the warehouse, ready for distribution. From raw animal fat being rendered in a heating vessel to a perfectly formed bar wrapped and sitting on a store shelf, that entire journey is built on chemistry that's over a century old, machines that run with a level of precision most people never associate with soap, and a formula that's been quietly refined for longer than most of us have been alive. If you enjoyed this, hit like, share it with someone who uses Lux every single day without knowing any of this, and subscribe. We've got more factory stories coming that are just as good as this one. See you next time.